Welcome back to Let's Talk Racism Ireland. I'm your host, Harrison Paul. We're going to talk about Jermaine Jenas and two-tier policing. The first thing that came to my mind when this Jermaine Jenas thing hopped up on all of our screens was just this nagging term that everyone on the right keeps pressing, especially specifically in, the UK and Ireland. It is this concept that police are policing black people and white people, or black and brown people, black and brown differently to how they're policing white people. So they're policing people of color differently to how they're policing white people. So now it is a sense where white people of Britain, specifically in Ireland, are coming to find themselves in this new concept of their oppression, that they are an oppressed people who are being policed completely differently and harshly. I guess it's just self-explanatory to people who've never really experienced what it is to be under oppression. But yeah, that's what I kept thinking of really when I saw this Jermaine Jenas, and especially also, I'm going to touch on this topic as well today, the Nando's girl. The girl who got the slap in the face. Now, one of the first things that I thought of when it happened, of course, we're disgusted with the way, that man had slapped her in the face. And we felt sorry for the girl. We felt sorry for how it all went down. But one thing that I don't think people are taking notice to was, do you think if that was a white British girl who was slapped by a brown person, that the police would have downplayed her incident in the way they did? Do you think that they would have assumed that a whole jury wouldn't have found that person guilty for slapping a white, picket fenced girl across the face? And it just makes me think, because now when we go back to the topic of Jermaine Jenas admitting that he, obviously getting sacked by the BBC, and at first everyone thought that this must be a huge, he must have crossed the line, massively crossed the line. Turns out that the guy has only had more of like a, morally stepped out on his family, emotionally, actually, on top of that. And here he is standing and admitting, his wrongs and where he went wrong. And we're going to play it on the screen for you guys to see it.
Firstly, to say sorry to my wife, to my family, to the women involved as well, and what I've put them through. But also, there's kind of like rumors that just kind of start, and I think it's really important that I kind of put my point across that there is nothing illegal that has happened here. This is consenting adults that messaged each other. Now, this is completely on me. I am 100% in the wrong, and I accept full responsibility for that. And it's something that obviously I need to address and look at myself.
Look, well done, Jermaine. I appreciate that. Although I think everyone, the elephant in the room, was wondering why Jermaine had been sacked instantly when Hugh Edwards was, undergoing a case for child, images. We don't like to use these terms on this show. Try our best not to, but he was using child images, images, and to find that they concealed his case, a lot more than they concealed Hugh Edwards. It just feels like this two-tier policing. Two-tier policing. And I can't help but, and again, of course, the Nando's girl, how that also is a two-tier policing situation, where we all know that it means a lot more when a white girl is under attack, especially from a black or brown person. And I can't help but think every single time. A lot of people think I do this show because I don't like white people, or I don't like white society as per se. In many ways, I can empathize with the ignorance that was handed down from the past generations to this current society. So if we think about it, even this weekend, just gone was a bank holiday weekend. That was a carnival was there, and just today I was actually explaining to my lady where carnival began. Like, what is it about? It's actually about. It's a day where the UK celebrates the struggle, or how far we've come from the struggle. I think it was the Brixton riots when the Jamaicans, really faced a lot of police brutality and whatnot, and that's not long ago. This concept that this is ages ago and everything's so long ago, it wasn't long ago. So it's very, realistic to see it that certain things from just that generation gone have been passed down and live in our society today. So this is not a thing that can be a ludicrous concept. Like, how are you telling me that just, 50 years ago, it's most of those people who are still living, from when these times were, let's say, more overt. And now things are becoming a lot more covert. And it frustrates me more when black or brown people don't step into the responsibility that we have in this current generation. This responsibility that we have in this current generation, brothers and sisters, is to, Irish people love this saying, not allow people to be chancers. Because people will be chancers where they can be chancers. And if you allow people to be chancers, they will be chancers. One of the discussions I was having with my mother recently, because she came to the UK in her 20s, so she's well-versed with British people and well-versed with British culture, whether it's black or white. And we were discussing the black or brown, black person, and discussing, the children of the Windrush generation, children and the grandchildren of the Windrush generation. And it was actually my lady who had pointed out first, and this is no offense to anybody who watches this show, but unfortunately we have to get a little bit offensive. And she was kind of saying like, babe, when you see the generation that that very Cockney, you can tell that their parents speak Cockney, their parents speak, they don't really have, let's say, an African accent or a Jamaican accent, more so a British accent. You can tell how engrossed they are by applying themselves to British culture. Follow me now, because you may say, is that so wrong? But to the detriment of their own identity, to the detriment of their own rights, to the detriment of their own self-dignity and respect, and to the detriment of the legacy of what we are supposed to be fighting for when we came here. It wasn't supposed to be a situation in which we arrived, the Windrush generation now I'm referring to, we were treated and handled the way we were treated, and then we don't look for true justice and equity in our society, but much rather we look for a level of peace that doesn't upset, I guess, this ability to dust things under the rug, or this ability to just kind of move past things. And often when you see that generation, which would be the grandchildren or the children of, more so maybe even the grandchildren, the children of Windrush generation, there is this, and she said, this get out. I'll put the movie up on the screen. This get out type person, anybody who's seen the movie Get Out, really it's about, I think we'll even refer to the brother who the brother who was actually not the original brother of the movie, but the one who came with the hat on. I'll put him on the screen also, and who said famously, "Get out." There is that, you know what I mean, in a sunken place that you see them in, and it's unfortunate when we see that generation, because, and this is what, now again referring to what my mother was kind of saying, was like, they're not even as successful within Britain as they come across as they are. Meaning, you will never find them in high places. This may be a very broad term, blanket term, and this may upset a lot of people. Are you saying we don't? But for how long they've been here, for how long they're supposed to have been a part of British society, there is certainly not enough of those generation, of those probably the first thorough black British in enough high places. And in fact, she said, that doesn't mean that, those Jamaicans, the more time the Jamaicans, it doesn't mean that they're not vocal. A lot of them can be quite vocal, but they're not combative when it comes to saying that role, those positions, those places belong to me just as much as they belong to you. And because they've not been combative, but rather, when I say combative, okay, look, yeah, combative is probably the wrong term to use, but in terms of like, they can be argumentative, they can be mouthy, they can speak their mind at times, but are they the person to push the boundaries and to push for that position and push for that role? So white Britain has been able to keep them out of places and pacify their fight, pacify what they're supposed to be pushing for. And then when she said that, I was like, wow, because I see them as a part of British culture. But can I say there's a high chance every time you walk into a high place, there will be a black British person in a seat of ownership, in a seat of a high position, high role. I can't say that. I can say they have merged into British society. I can say they have, they can walk the walk, they can talk the talk, they sound British, they look British. But can I say that has proven to be anything fruitful for us to live off of? I think they settled at a space that really is not beneficial for generations to come. And one of the things is so funny because my brother actually moved to back to Zimbabwe because he had felt like, my older brother, he felt like he does branding. And he did for a while feel like, it doesn't feel nice to be, watch other people who are white really get positions ahead of you and stuff like that when you have a far better talent and greater talent, and people not being able to see past your skin in a say. And people will take that as a very literal term, but this is why I'm talking about the two-tier policing here. It's like you have Hugh Edwards where your mind gives a Hugh Edwards a more of a benefit of a doubt. As there's more of an air of respect that comes with the skin of being white, a more of a patience, a more of a benefit of the doubt, and an assumption of their intellect, an assumption of their capacity, and then there comes a negative assumption for a black skin. These are real things. If you want to cry about it and say skin color doesn't mean anything, no, it's the context behind skin color. It's what has been branded, what's been coined behind certain skin colors that really our society today is struggling to undo. Like I said, the legacy that have been left down, the ideological way of thinking, that has been passed down. Right. So he went back, my brother, because he felt like he just wanted to, find himself where he was being appreciated despite his skin. And, he's been getting a lot of jobs because he does remotely, he works remote, whatever. He just gets a lot of jobs from the USA, and he was thinking my mom said maybe he might end up moving there. And I just said a passing comment. The Americans have worked there, in an aspect where you can't just talk the talk about your racism. There's got to be some form of a show of the ownership, right? Of like, yeah, black people really do. We really do believe black people are American, and I believe they have broken that ceiling far better than we have here in the UK. Here in the UK, I think it's talk, it's gestures, but really, like I'm going to say, when you go to high places, those Cockney Britain, they don't really have this force to be reckoned with in these high places that okay, And when you do find someone who's in a very, I want to say, powerless position, that's why they're not willing to kind of go to bat for you in those realms, because they know they're walking on thin ice themselves, right? This is why majority of the times you see a lot of them are kind of trying to get away from being black, get away from being themselves. And then, of course, they use it in a very gimmicky way whenever there's kind of like black festive things. And that's some of them. Some of them will even reject that totally and completely. But I feel like that generation, when we talk about the generation of the how do you call them? The Windrush generation. Sorry about that. The Windrush generation, they have allowed themselves to settle in a place where the African American has not allowed themselves to settle. So the white British society is able to and been able to pacify their movement, really. And the movement is not just crying about racism, it's letting our so-called reborn society display itself, in systematically, right? And, institutions and whatnot. And this is the frustration that I have when I see moments like Jermaine Jenas, when I see moments like, the Nando's girl, and when I think about the topic of people keep pressing on, which is two-tier policing. The black or brown person, I'll speak majority for the black, because they are settling, they are going to allow people to be chancers. And what the likes of Nigel Farage and all those people are trying to do now, if you listen closely to their message, they want to erase historical facts. One of the things I love about history, I'm not obsessed about history because I'm obsessed about what I ate yesterday, or I'm obsessed about what I wore yesterday, or I'm obsessed about yesterday. I have no obsession with yesterday. And I said this when we were discussing about, the Jamaicans and the Africans. So I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying Jamaicans is a way to separate myself, our family, right? But I'm just talking about that, those would have been the first, they were the first really Africans to come to the UK and whatnot. When you look at that generation, you can see how much the psychological damage they are under. When you've gone through, like even now, I'm kind of like in a slight bit of a countryside, I'm not more so in the city. So in a place where, I can be going into certain stores where you can see you must have not seen black people that much because you're still following me around like I'm going to do something. No, there's certain things, certain aspects to the culture here where I'm living in the UK at the moment where you can kind of see, oh yeah, you're not in London where you've gotten used to, black or brown people. And, they found themselves really inhaling. And if I'm feeling this now in 2024, I can be sure what they were getting since they arrived, when they all arrived in the dock that day. God only knows what they have received. So it has put them in this box, in this bubble in their mind psychologically where it is just about assimilating, getting by, and whatever. And I'm so proud to be with a lady who's, woke, I'm going to say that term as much as you hate it, and ready, because she's like, wow, babe, those type of British, you can really see like they're like hello, is anybody ghosted out? Like, and we use a term here saying down there, sunken place. Like, I'm like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, honestly, it's real sad. It's like you can see they erased everything. And that was a survival mechanism. So I love looking at life from an historical standpoint. I told her, when you look at life now, so I'm not obsessed with the past. I'm obsessed with how it's shaped today. So when you see people trying to erase our past, two-tier policing, not keeping in mind what black people have faced. So yes, maybe you might have seen, let's keep it 100, maybe you might have seen people having an uproar for riots in the UK or in Ireland about Black Lives Matter, BLM. That there has to be a different heart with how you police violent riots against immigration, because we have come to accept that there are parts of our society that are oppressive, and there are people who are facing that day in, day out. If you want to claim that you are a white person who doesn't do that, I hate this concept that everyone is like that. No, there are people in your country, if you're white and you're watching this, who are failing you. There are white people who are bosses who are failing you, who are, bosses for black people, who are ill-treating them. We just watched that brother whose car was set on fire, and he worked for a care home. And, the minute his money was earned for the GoFundMe, he earned about, 68,000, something like that. Then she starts to control the money and say, we're going to give it away to charity. Guys, people are, this type of behavior, this controlling, coercive behavior is happening to people off camera, off, social media, viral moment. And we're just putting through with it. Why? Because who's going to believe, again, two-tier policing, who's going to believe me, that white lady, or me, I'm an African black man? So once she puts on the tears, I'm done for. So if she's giving me, she's breaking my mental down with her type of underhanded nature, all this kind of stuff. We watched how evil that played out in Claire's care homes. This is happening everywhere. So when they're trying to negate that or erase that and say that the riots that happen is a people who are tired and fed up, and we are trying to make this world come back to some form of sanity. So when we have our black and brown people who get fed up and go and riot or whatever they may do, yes, there is a different air in how we police that to spoiled white people who are rioting against immigration with complete rage, and then now manipulating this air of we are all oppressed people. So if you are not careful, black and brown person, you find yourself, and I see a lot of these, like I told you, those black Brits or whatever, who are Brit through and through, who have found this very, let's say it's a beautiful space in their mind where racism doesn't exist, or they don't give it air. I don't really give it back times. Just my best Cockney accent. Don't really care myself in it. Oh, I don't watch that. I'm watching somebody who has been indoctrinated by his master and pacified and put in a way coercively where there's mixed the bad with some good, with past trauma of how worse it used to be and how worse it still can be in certain areas. And you're thinking, you know what? I'll hang on to this tiny piece of land. These are the people I get more frustrated with than the people who are actually claiming two-tier policing. Because this is not the time for you to be colorblind or try to make yourself colorblind. This is not the time for you to say, I focus on me and I don't focus on anything else. Oh, that racism? Oh, I don't really watch it. Doesn't bother me. When there's a black brother who's in care homes, if that's the way she treated him in his moment with the GoFundMe, how's he be treated day in, day out? We're watching Jermaine Jenas being fired like that. Hugh Edwards gets time. A girl gets slapped in. These things, though small, though we'll move on, though will be a trend and we'll move on weeks later, and though majority of these things don't make the news, they erode your mind to think it is my portion to celebrate the bare minimum. It is my birthright. And you don't know this. And you will never realize this because you've just indoctrinated yourself that he has manipulated you, that thinking about your rights and thinking about the legacy of the Windrush generation and what it meant for me to finish the job that they started is actually being a victim. So not thinking about what Windrush should, what our society should look like because of what went through in those generations, because of colonialism, because of what lingers in today. Abandoning that responsibility is somehow being strong-minded. That's intellectual. That's being not being a victim. You've been manipulated to believe that. One thing I like about Brits, and I'll sign off here. You'll be damned. They don't care what Churchill did. He fought for Britain not to lose the Second World War against Germany, and that is enough. I don't care what bad he did. I've seen the presenter of Good Morning Britain who said, but shouldn't we understand that because of its time, things were different at that time. Yet you can't stand up for people just a generation prior to you who went through something and stand on it, come rain, come snow, come sunshine. No, it's intellectual, it's smart for you, it's responsible, it's strong-minded, it's, big man, big woman, to completely neglect the responsibility that you have as the children, the grandchildren of that generation. I'm sometimes stuck, brothers and sisters, between what is trauma and what is no longer excuse for black trauma. I understand black trauma can produce coonery, but what is no longer an excuse for that? We now live in a generation where information is being pumped out, information that was kept from us, and you're still saying that was a long time ago. I am not obsessed with history because it's history. I can see how history has shaped today. When I look around, I see history in today. I see, oh my goodness. It's funny you say this because I saw a clip, actually. I don't know why. I don't think I'll be able to get it for this, but I saw a clip of the way they used to use the toilet in the medieval times. Apparently, they used to use the toilet at the side of the castle, and they used to have it go down a big channel, whatever. And now we have found a simpler way. And I've been using this example in my last few videos of like the development of this world and how it stacks upon each other, all these kind of things, how life moves from like life is like this sandwich, right? Where we're just living on the layers that have been set. Nothing is the characteristics of this world that we live in. It's all been set prior. So you can see, all right, I see how we use the toilet today and how that correlates with where it started. I see the history. That's the interesting part. So I see the history in certain things of like why dark skin and black skin and white skin, or rather dark skin and light skin black people, there's this friction between us at times. And then you begin to understand how certain slave masters would, created this privilege. And also even in terms of like, Eurocentric beauty standards. So just like different things of history, I see it in today's world. I see it in how we're living today. And here lies why I'm obsessed with history, because I see it in today's world. So you wanting to get to the bottom of how we are going to rectify things that people that you love, you and I love, me and you in a different generation, just a generation just before us, not too long ago, they would have died in vain because the job is not yet finished. And you are too busy being indoctrinated by your master that you are declaring the job finished. And that's what you call yourself as strong-minded? That is a weak mind. Weak mind. And you would never find the Brits doing their predecessors in such a way, regardless if they were even the evil ones of that story. You'd have a handful of people. That's why today, till this day, you have royalists who stand on the royal family, regardless of what they've done, regardless of what they currently do, and how racism, manifests itself today with the Meghan Markle situation, will still stand by it. They have an Andrew who went and did what he did, still stand by it. That's our legacy. That's our history matters. Europeans taught me history matters. Then they taught you history doesn't matter. You call that strength, you have been manipulated and defeated. Well, anyway, this could go on for ages, but two-tier policing, brothers and sisters. Was Jermaine Jenas here two-tier policed by the BBC? Was the girl at Nando's two-tier policed? When she was told not to bring the case and that it's better for her not to press charges for being slapped in the face with a plate? Would a white girl have gone through that? Would Hugh Edwards have gone through what Jermaine has gone through today? And you're going to allow these people to keep manipulating politics in this country while you don't focus on it? Because you're just so strong-minded. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe.
And I'm on a mission for you.